Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're gathering with us today. My name is Robbie Samuels. I am a longtime member of NSA. And before I introduce myself further, I just want to encourage you to update your Zoom name to include your NSA chapter if you're a member, or if you're not a member yet, you're a city and state, so you'll know which chapters you're near. This is going to be important because later on we're going to be in breakout rooms, and this will be sort of a part of your name tag that will follow you around as you go into those breakout rooms at the end of the meeting. The instructions for that are in the chat. But if you go up here, the top right of your own Zoom window, you'll see the three dots, and you can click on that to hit rename. I am at this very moment transitioning from membership director of the National Speakers Association Philadelphia chapter to president elect. That's in the next term, which it's very exciting. It's like a public coming out that I'm doing this. I've been a member of NSA since 2015, and one of the very best decisions I ever made was to attend Influence, the annual conference in 2015. And as I was leaving, I said, half kidding and half serious, I'm going to commit to going to this for 10 years, then decide if it was worth it. And I've gone for 10 plus years now, and it's been more than worth it. It's an incredible event, as is the smaller national event called Thrive that happens earlier in the year. So Influence takes place over the summer, usually in the July timeframe, and Thrive takes place in February or March. It has not ever really been about the sessions. I mean, the content's great because we attract really smart people to come and share their thoughts. It's really been about, though, the people, the conversations, the relationships, the ideas, the way it has influenced my thinking, my business, the growth I've had personally as a business owner. And that's really the purpose of tonight's program. Because if you think about it, like, what is the answer to what helps speakers become better at their craft and build stronger businesses? I think one way to answer that would be connections. Right? It's a pretty big piece of the puzzle is the connections through local chapters, connections through national events, connections with people who understand the both art and business of speaking. NSA Philadelphia is very proud to be hosting this conversation alongside our fellow elite chapters, which includes NSA Carolinas, NSA Colorado, and NSA Mountain West. You might be wondering to yourself, what makes a chapter elite? So, what I can tell you is that this is a recognition awarded by NSA to chapters demonstrating excellence in areas such as membership growth, leadership participation, member engagement, the number of certified speaking professionals, and we'll talk later about what that means, and of course, national involvement. Now, only a handful of chapters qualify for these requirements each year. So I've gathered the 4 chapters who did this year to be part of this program. So whether you are already registered to attend Influence this July, you're thinking about maybe going to either Thrive or Influence next year, or you're just kind of curious about what becomes possible when you get more involved with NSA, tonight is designed to help you see the bigger picture. And I want to share with you now how our 90 minutes is going to unfold. We're going to begin with a panel conversation about what speakers gain when they get more involved with their NSA chapters and how they make the most of attending the NSA national conferences. And after that 3-person panel and a little bit of Q&A, we're going to be doing a fireside chat with me and Rob Ferre, CSP from NSA Mountain West. Rob and I are going to be talking about some of the work we've been doing about how to make Influence more welcoming, more inclusive, easier to navigate, because, of course, as first timers, it could be really difficult, or you feel like you're not very plugged into the community. It could feel like you can get a little lost. Any kind of large gathering is like that. So we're going to be talking about what we've been working on and how other conference participants, besides he and I, can help create a stronger conference experience for everyone. We're going to close with a fireside chat with Meridith Elliott Powell, CSP, CPAE, and she's also the immediate past chair of the NSA National Board. Now, Meridith is going to share her perspective from national leadership and where she sees the association heading. At the end of that, we're going to have time for maybe a little bit of Q&A. We're going to then move right into breakout rooms because honestly, we can't talk about connection and not give you the opportunity to actually connect with each other. So we'll have a moment at the end to do that, and we'll share some resources as well. So again, thank you so much for being here, and let's get started with our panel. I'm going to bring up on screen John Edwards, CSP, John Edwards, CSP of NSA Carolinas. I'm going to just highlight him and all three of my speakers actually, and then make a quick introduction. Here we are. And there we go. Hello, everyone. So we have John Edwards, CSP of NSA Carolinas, brings a deep background in neuroscience, humor, storytelling, and leadership development, along with a long history of NSA involvement. Melissa Boggs of NSA Colorado helps leaders surface the hidden cultures sabotaging their success. She brings a powerful perspective on connection and showing up differently. And Sydne Jacques, CSP of NSA Mountain West, helps leaders build culture with intention, trust, and purpose. Together, they'll share how NSA chapter membership and national connections have helped them grow as speakers and business owners. So, kicking things off with John, all of you can go ahead and unmute so you're ready to answer. John, your work uses neuroscience, humor, you have storytelling, all to help people accelerate their success. I would love for you to take us back to the beginning. How did you first find out about NSA? And what made you think that this is a community that you would want to be part of? Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Robbie, for allowing me to participate in your event today. And hello, everybody. Excited to be with you. That's a great question. What made me think this was a community I wanted to be a part of? So here is the very transparent answer. I did not think I wanted to be a part of your community. I was in Toastmasters and was competing in the Toastmaster contest. And in my club in New York, I had an individual who kept telling me about this NSA group and I should join it. And I'm just going to be honest and tell you, I wasn't quite sure what this organization could really do for me. So I was quite resistant for some time. I finally broke down and went to my first influence conference and walked away with my tail tucked between my legs. It's a typical story. You've heard it from so many other people. You kind of think you're good. You're winning some contests. They're paying you $200 and dinner to give a speech. You think you're killing it, right? And then you go to influence, and you see Anita Cobain get up on the stage, and you're like, wait a minute, there's a whole nother level here. There's a different game being played, and I haven't even been picked for a team. So I finally broke down and joined NSA. That was 35 years ago, and I've consistently and consecutively been a member ever since. And so I'm just being honest to tell you, I was a resistant. I came kicking and dragging, but once I saw what I was missing, I had no plans to leave.
I honestly, John, you are the perfect person to kick this call off for all the people who are listening or watching the replay who have that same resistance. Like, what is this? Especially if someone keeps pushing it. No, no, really, really, John, really, really, John. And you're like, what are they selling me? Like, what is this? Is almost a little cultish. You're gonna keep pushing it like that. What are we? What is this? Is this an MLM? Like, what is? And you're like, you show up, and I agree with you. Like, for me, it's not been 35 years, but I still remember it. I still remember the powerful, different presentations I saw, the wide range of presentations I saw on stage. Yeah, like you said, I wasn't even picked for a team yet. So thank you for that. And I'm going to now head over to Melissa. Melissa, cautious to courageous has been one of your signature messages, but you're also doing a lot right now around hidden cultures and what keeps people stuck. So, was there a stuck to unstuck moment in your own journey with NSA? And, well, what first got you in the room and what moved you from attending passively to actively getting involved? Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Robbie. This is so much fun. So many friends on the screen. Um, so what first got me in the room, I had been a speaker probably about 6 years, but in a very like niche industry, somewhat similar to John. Like I didn't think that I was like the best of the best, but I was at the top of my game in my industry. Yet I had never been paid to speak. So when I started actually becoming a paid keynote speaker, I started looking for the community. In that niche industry that I came from, I was very involved in that association to the extent that I was the CEO of the association for a couple of years. And I knew I needed this community. So found it. I actually joined chapter and national at the same time. My stuck to unstuck moment, though, I would actually say was just at the beginning of last year. So January of 2025. I had been a member since like January of 22. I felt at home here to a degree, but I wasn't super plugged in or connected, especially at the national level. And Frank Kitchen, for those of you who know him, posted on LinkedIn that he had at one point like made an effort to speak to one speaker per week. And I am the kind of person when you hear something like that that makes a spreadsheet. And so I reached out to a couple of my friends who were longtime members and said, at the national membership level, like, who do I need to know? And I lasted 6 months. For the first 6 months of 2025, I spoke to a new speaker every single week. And they were
Wow.
just 30-minute getting to know you. I wasn't pitching, they weren't pitching. It was across chapters across the country. And it absolutely changed my experience at Influence last year
Wow.
because then I
Yeah.
knew people.
Right. I mean, I have often said that the second year of influence is harder than the first because you know it's going to be overwhelming your first year. But when you go the second year and you still don't have your people, you still don't know who to have a break with or what sessions to go to or who's going to take you to dinner or anything. And you're just constantly trying to regroup in a crowded, chaotic, vibrant hallway. Like it's a lonely feeling. But if you do that work in between years one and two and you get in touch with people and I mean, that's brilliant. Having all these coffee chats. Now you show up and there's a room full of people who are waiting for you. I love that. I too left a job where I was very involved in an association. So when I left my day job to become a full-time entrepreneur, I didn't wait 10 years to join NSA. I was like, no, no. I mean, I was in an association in my last job. Like, I'm not going to wait. And that I think that changes everything, like making the commitment to be part of that. So that is really already tips coming in. Sydney, let's just jump over to you. A slightly different question for you. This is about more like the chapter involvement. So you talk about building cultures by design and leading with intention. How has being active in NSA Mountain West shaped the way you think about building a professional community with intention?
So I love the Mountain West chapter. If you ever have a chance, you should come visit us. It is a lot of fun. But I do want to jump really quickly to how I found NSA. I've been an entrepreneur for 32 years now, and when I was working as a civil engineer, I was selected to be trained by Stephen Covey and become a facilitator for the Covey Leadership Center. And so having that chance to get out of my engineering cubicle and facilitate was like, wow, I love this. And so I started my own business and was doing mostly training and facilitation. And I went to a big conference and I heard someone speak, Doug Nielsen. And I just went up and said, I want to be you. What do I do? And he wrote down National Speakers Association. Go check it out. And so I went and started attending. And the first year they said, you need to go to Influence. And so I talked Michelle McCullough into going to Influence with me. We were both newbies. And so we both went together and we've been together going to Influence for 12 years now. And that makes it a lot more fun too. But immediately I got involved in the chapter. Ty Bennett was the incoming president when I first came in. And so he asked me to be on the board, and I had a chance to serve on the board. And it's just it's just such a great opportunity to be able to meet people, to connect with people. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated about that experience was understanding that there's not one right way to do this business. As a facilitator and a trainer, I kept thinking, do I fit here? Is this, and I do some keynotes, but my my experience working on the board helped me realize that Rob's a DJ and I'm a civil engineer, and Ty Bennett is a full-time keynote speaker, but that we all make a business making it work, but coming together and having the community and supporting each other, there's nothing like it. And being an entrepreneur for so long, being by myself, I did build one business and sell it, but like just it was like I found my people, and so I loved it.
Yeah, I open with "We Are Family" as music because, like, for so many of us, this is the family that we come back to. It's one of the things I love about coming to the events, coming whether it's chapter level or national level. The fact that you jumped right into service, I hear that story a lot, and also that comment you made about, you go up to a speaker that you're wowed by at a conference. You're like, I want to be you, and they're like, I've heard that like they write down NSA's website. Like
Yeah.
I've heard that story many different times, and I also know that there's a moment where you realize you can be a paid speaker. Like there's a realization, what, you get paid to do this? And so seeing other people do this and then coming to a conference, getting more involved in chapter work. John, I want to come over to you. You've been actively engaged with NSA Carolinas. You're going to be president next year. Obviously, you've got a long history of being part of all the work here at NSA. I'd love to hear the kinds of relationships you've developed through NSA that you would have found hard to build any other way.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I would break that down into two distinct levels. The first of which is relationships with folks who are way better than I am. And in the early years of development, as I mentioned before, there was a pretty humbling realization. But once I picked up my ego off the ground, brushed off whatever was left of it, I realized that I could go up to people in the hall and talk to them. Here's the cool thing. They talked back to me. And then all of a sudden I'm in a conversation with them. And this is way before I discovered how powerful it was to buy them a beer later. But just to have the conversation in the hallway was just like, I'm talking to who? And this, 30 years ago, we weren't doing as many selfies as we're doing today. But today it's just getting a selfie with these superstars is just great, awesome. But to be able to have those conversations with those folks, and to begin to develop relationships and have access to them. I'm just going to give you one quick example. I was in a room. I don't have his permission to share his name, but I don't think he would mind. But I was in a room with one of NSA superstars. He was doing a breakout session, and I was, the business was just beginning to take off. And someone said to him, they said, "Sir, you're on the road like literally every week. How do you struggle with leaving home?" And he said something that changed my life and probably saved my marriage. He pointed to a woman sitting in a chair near the front and he said, "You see her? She goes with me wherever I go. I never leave home."
Mhm.
Wow.
And it was at that moment that I realized that even though I was living on the road and living out of a suitcase, my wife and I put together a plan that said there's going to come a day when I'll never leave home. And that's the plan we put together. And that, to have access, that may not mean the same thing to everybody, but I'm just sharing that for me in that moment in my career and the evolution of my life, that one piece of advice from one breakout session at one influence changed my life. And I would not have had access to that kind of information before. And then the second thing is now at the later stages of my career, being able to meet people that we can pour into, right? And just be able to give back in the same way that we've been receiving. I wouldn't have access to those folks if I wasn't participating in the chapters and doing the kinds of things that we get the privilege and the honor and the pleasure to do.
Yeah, I love that you're showing that it's a both and. I mean, there's the learning from the being mentored, but also like you said, the pouring into. And you don't have to wait years to be pouring into other people. Like a year of being an NSA, you meet a speaker who has not been part of it, and you will. Oh my God, I know so many things now. I can share ideas and books and people and like it just yeah, it's really really powerful. I had the opportunity before going to my first NSA conference to connect with someone who was a longtime member, and one of the things they said to me was, "Leave your wallet in your room. And if anyone tells you you need something, I want you to call me, and I'm going to tell you three people who will talk to you about it who are at the event." And it was just like, oh, okay. And it was just, and now I'm like, I meet a new person. I'm like, all right, you can call me. I will tell you three people who can talk to you. Like, so it's this idea of paying that forward. I didn't have to wait to do that. As soon as I learned it, I was like, great. Here's how you're going to navigate all the things you're going to learn. You're going to be overwhelmed. You think you do everything. And I love the idea of bringing family on the road. Like the youth conference is a great example of that. I see all these families showing up to the annual conference. It's really cool. We're going to actually shift to talking about the annual events. We're going to be talking about Influence. Again, that takes place in July timeframe, and Thrive, which is usually in February, March. And I'll put links at the very end of this in the chat so people can grab them. But you can also go to nsaspeaker.org if you just want to go take a peek. Melissa, for someone who's attending Influence or Thrive for the first time, it could be, easy to just focus on, content, going to the right sessions, really being focused on the program. But I want to know, given your work, how would you encourage someone to approach the relationship building side of attending these kinds of events?
First thing I would say, and this probably won't surprise anyone, is don't wait till you get there. So, the biggest impact on my experience last year and this year was that I reached out to people ahead of time. So, if it's your first time, I realize that might be a little bit challenging, but A, look around your local chapter. Hey, who is going to Influence? Can we get a WhatsApp chat going of everyone that's going to Influence? B, people are going to be posting on LinkedIn that they're going to Influence. Do not be afraid to comment on those posts and say, "Hey, it's my first time. Can we meet up, or do you have any tips?" Just connect with people ahead of time. I love that Sydne brought Michelle, and now you have a buddy system. So bring one of your chapter folks and let them be your buddy. But the experience doesn't have to start and end just in the 3 days that you're there. That is just a catalyst. So start beforehand, follow up after. I actually grabbed Rob Ferre on the last day of Influence last year and said, "Hey, I want to hang out with you. Can we hang out before we leave?" And we spent like 15 minutes in the lobby, and we've been chatting ever since. So people want to connect with you too. Don't be afraid.
I love that. I think getting over the fear of walking up to people, and realizing, like, John said it too, like just knowing you can start a conversation with anyone that's there, like how powerful that is, because it's like, especially I've actually seen people on the main stage and found them on LinkedIn, sent them a message, and ended up meeting up with them in the hallway. Like, just really moments that I couldn't have recreated in any other circumstance. Sydne, coming over to you, still talking about these national events. Your work often helps leaders moving from feeling, overwhelmed to more intentional, and I love that. By the way, influence can, as I mentioned, feel very overwhelming as an experience, especially if you're a first-time attendee or you go sporadically, so you don't feel very plugged in. So, how would you suggest approaching a conference like this with more intention, so that they're coming home with more relationships and actionable ideas, rather than a notebook full of a bunch of, notes with no clear
Right.
next steps, which, yeah, sometimes I've been guilty of that, like taking tons of notes and no actions. So how have you made the most, I guess, of going to these events?
Yeah, I think for me, I think the same principle applies when it comes to connections with people and when it comes to that notebook full of ideas. And that is take in as much as you want. But at the end of the day, I go into it with the mindset that I'm coming out with three. I want three connections of people. It may be people that I already know, but I want to connect deeper. Or it could be a new connection. It could be like Melissa, somebody that I've, reached out to before. It could be someone brand new. I have a fantastic relationship with a woman. She only came to Influence once. And I believe in prayer and meditation. And in the morning, I just say, "God, if there's somebody you want me to meet today, let me know." And I sat by this woman, and we're still friends 10 years later. And it's a beautiful relationship. And so I think just not being overwhelmed by the sheer amount of awesome people that are there and thinking that you're going to try and connect and stay in touch with everyone, because you're not. So I think three is kind of a magical number. And then the same thing with the content. I do like to take a lot of notes, but at the end, when I'm processing, I'm like, what are my three things that I'm actually going to do because of what I learned here?
I'll even go one step further with the rule of three. Pick three things a day that you're absolutely going to do, and everything else is
Yep.
optional. And one of the three things should really feed you, which means it might be content that isn't, strictly required, but like something you're curious about. Could be a coffee chat with a friend, could be a nap, could be the hot tub. I have had amazing conversations at conferences and hot tubs. Nothing untoward about that. But just like, particularly for people who are more introverted and have to manage their energy, if you do too much earlier in the day, the thing you really want to do at night isn't going to be available to you. You're going to be too spent. So managing your energy, what fills you back up. Like for me, it's people. So I can kind of keep going just by being around people. But if you are someone who needs something a little different, then yeah, like trying to make three good connections rather than trying to meet everybody. Like it's not going to be as beneficial to do that. I've dropped, by the way, for those who are here in the room, some links in the chat. I dropped a link to chapter events calendar. Most chapters are pretty good about putting their events up there, and a lot of events are virtual. So no matter where you are in the world, you could participate, and the virtual chapter events go from free to maybe about $40, depending on the event, and amazing content. And if you're anywhere near driving distance to a chapter, I also put a list of chapters. So you can check out a chapter. Most chapters have some kind of deal where either there's a guest membership, a guest fee for attending, or the first session might be free even. You can always ask, or they bundle something, or they definitely all will give you some sort of taste of their chapter. The pricing and the membership fees all vary, but you can check those out. And I also put information about the blog and the podcast that NSA National coordinates, which just, again, like you don't have to be a member. This is great content. You can share this content with people. We want more people to have access to that information. And some people were asking, how do you get involved if you don't go to national events? It's like you find ways to join the events that are happening. Like I host a free virtual networking event every other month called Speakeasy for NSA Philadelphia. So you can go to our website and check that out. You just find events that they're happening. One other note before we shift to the lightning round, we're really just talking about the U.S., but I want to call out that Canada has the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, which is also known as CAPS. They have their own chapters. They have an annual event. I go to their annual event. This year it's in Toronto in early December. It's a great, again, another great resource for people in the States. Depending on where you live, your chapter might be in Canada. Your best speaker chapter, if you're somewhere around the border, we might actually find it closer to go across the border to a chapter meeting. So you can check out that, and you can go to the CAPS to CanadianSpeaker.org, I think is the website, to look that up. So back now to the program and to our sort of more lightning round. If you can each share a practical takeaway to this question. I'm going to start with John and then Melissa. John, what is one thing you'd encourage someone to do before attending Influence this year so they can arrive feeling more prepared?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat. You asked for one, I'll give you two really quickly. Number one, get a traveling buddy. And I'm repeating some things that you might have already heard, but don't go through Influence alone. Get a traveling buddy to go through Influence with. And number two, come with a specific problem you want to solve based on where your business is right now. If your business is just starting off, I don't know if the how to make six figures in 6 months is going to be the right session for you, right? Let's just figure out what is an LLC? I mean, wherever your business happens to be, come with that specific issue that you want to solve and let everything else be entertainment.
I love that. That is awesome. I feel you in not being able to hold my tongue and only offer one piece of advice, John. I'm like, oh, and this and this. All right, let's go over to Melissa. What is one courageous but doable action someone could take at Influence, at Thrive, or maybe at their local chapter to build a stronger speaking business?
Just say the thing or just do the thing. And see, I cheated because that is an umbrella term. So now I can say 7 things. But by that, I mean, if you were thinking about volunteering at your local chapter, find a board member and say, hey, how do I volunteer? If you were thinking about going to one of the cool sessions at Influence, like the You Belong ice cream social or the roller skating field trip that I host every year, just do the thing. So many people in these events have been exactly where you are as a first timer, and we love you and we want to include you. So just say the thing, just do the thing.
I love that. I think we can talk ourselves out of it or make it too complicated. Every chapter is volunteer run. And so even like I will tell you that for 10 years, I demurred and didn't join the board. I joined my board almost 10 years, like 2 years ago. So I basically like was really busy. I was trying to build a business. But what I said for those 10 years was, you can always ask me. And if I can do it, I will say yes. And I will do it without you having to remind me. And if I can't do it, I will say no. And you won't feel bad and I won't feel bad because I'll know you'll ask me again next time. And I said that consistently to every board I've been a part of for a long time now. And that is how you become somebody that people like. You become a trusted resource, volunteer, show up kind of person. And when I couldn't show up, I didn't show up. I said, no, thank you. I'm not available. And then I like really, I moved from one chapter to another and I fell in love with my chapter and I'm now like uber involved, right? So things happen. My business is in a place where I don't need to put that kind of energy in. Um, so I don't have the location and date for Thrive in 2027. I have been searching for it myself, Lynn. And if Meridith, who's on the call, has any background details and can find anything out for us, let us know. It was in the works last I heard, and we weren't final with it. There's some questions I see coming in here from the chat, but let's go over to Sydney. Sydney, what is one intentional action someone could take at Influence Thrive or their local chapter to build the kind of speaking community they actually want to be a part of? What would you add to the conversation?
Well, I've told you that I love having a travel buddy go with me, but I also love going to breakout sessions and just sitting by someone I don't know. I think if you get there early, strike up a conversation with someone. A lot of times during the presentations, you have times to, interaction to exchange ideas. And this is one of my favorite things is I always just meet amazing people in the breakout sessions and I encourage you to do that too.
I have a sort of a plus one on that, which is if there's like at the lunch, there's always like buffet style. So I will sit at an empty table near where the buffet line ends and just look up, like not get on my phone, not busy myself eating, nod at people who are, they're walking around with their plate and they're like trying to find a place to land. And I just kind of go, and then they go, and then I start a conversation and these people connect and I see them hanging out the entire conference. Because we hit it, we like gave them permission. They all came. So if you could be the most introverted person and do what I just did, like you just sit and you're friendly and you make eye contact and you become a safe place for others to come over. I think that's really been exciting to me. I love the way we meet people. And earlier, Melissa, you gave a shout out to You Belong Ice Cream Social. We're going to talk about that in a moment when I get into a conversation with Rob Ferre. But another piece of this is finding your people. And I did share in the chat community groups. So nationally, there are different types of community groups. If you are a member of one of the NSA national community groups, can you write a little note in chat saying what you get out of it? Put the name, of course, of the group so that people can get a sense of it. But I want to make sure that the people who are in these groups are speaking to it. But for me, broadly speaking, it's that you feel like you're in a big crowd. When I first got to NSA, and I don't know if John, you can speak to this one, there was a Mac users community group because because it was really hard for Mac users back in the day to get their dongles to work with all the equipment. So they would meet up and have conversations about being a Mac user in a world of PCs. That's no longer as much of an issue. But that was the kind of example of like really you find your people, whatever it might be. But there's some really good groups. I think that there's some good stuff going in there. There's yes, Black NSA. There's a lot of programming year round, including a mastermind. And I should mention that these groups, generally speaking, are open to everyone. So Black NSA, you don't have to identify as Black to be a part of it, including some of their board members. It's just like everyone's welcome. It's about supporting the community that you're joining. I am silently collecting people, Melissa. I see your note here. Not so silently doing it now. MCs of NSA. So Rob's been a part of that. We're gonna have Rob up here in a moment. Rob, I got to tell you the truth. I joined that Facebook group, maybe 2019, thinking I'm an interloper. I don't know if I really qualify as an MC. And then the pandemic hit, and I started hosting all these Zoom calls, and I'm like, oh, I am an MC. Got it. I didn't realize I knew how to do that. There's also Power Women of NSA, which is a fantastic group that, again, has some really good programming year round. That one during the year is exclusively for people who identify as women, but during the conference, they hold some events that are open to anyone attending the conference. Rainbow Speakers is for LGBT speakers and our allies. Accessible NSA is for people with disabilities and their allies. Really, a lot of different opportunities for connecting and finding your people. I think I've answered all the questions that we have answers for in this group. I want to thank our panel one more time for joining us. If you continue to have questions for them, we can bring them up again at the end. Thank you, John, and thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Sydney. All right, now we're going to shift gears, and we are going to talk about going to NSA and navigating it. I'm going to bring Rob Ferre up to talk about the work he's been doing to help create a more welcoming and inclusive space. Rob is Rob Ferre, CSP. Congratulations on that. Past president of NSA Mountain West. He also MC Influence in 2022. Funny little note about that, Rob. I saw you. I remember Amy was up there. It was one other person. And I thought, I know these people. They're my friends. We made it. And then I realized that I'd been part of this for a decade and we were just old. We'd finally arrived. It was our turn. And you're
It was
currently
our coming out party.
It was pretty cool. Currently, you're vice chair of the CSP committee. Again, we're gonna tease out a little bit more about the certified speaking professional. We can talk about that. Rob is known as a high energy keynote speaker, no joke, MC, game show host, and event experience designer. His work centers on creating connection, engagement, and memorable moments for audiences. Now, inside NSA, Rob also brings that same spirit of engagement towards service. And the thing I really want to talk to him about is that for several national conferences, he's been coordinating kind of quietly, like with no fanfare, these volunteer room monitors that happen in the concurrent breakout room sessions. And he gets volunteers to be greeters, and to help people find their seats if it's kind of crowded, to pass out materials, ultimately supporting the speaker in whatever they need, and making sure the microphone is run over to whoever's asking questions during the Q&A portion, which means we're easier for everyone to participate and to hear, and also for the recording to capture what's being said. And through Rob's leadership, dozens of NSA members have had a very clear and practical way to serve while becoming more connected themselves to the conference. So I want this to be less of an interview and a little more of a conversation. So if you would just indulge me for a moment while I introduce myself a little more fully. I mentioned I'm Robbie Samuels. Now, professionally, I'm a book launch strategist. I work with entrepreneurial authors to turn books into business development tools. But the work that brings me to this kind of conversation is actually rooted in my background as a networking expert. My first book is Croissants versus Bagels, Strategic, Effective, and Inclusive Networking at Conferences. And that book was all about designing conference experiences where people don't have to already know someone. They don't have to be naturally outgoing or feel like an insider in order to fully participate. And that has also been shaped by my own lived experience as an openly queer and transgender business owner of a certified LGBT business. So one of the ways I've tried to contribute to the influence experience is by organizing the You Belong Ice Cream Social. This is something I started as a little experiment in 2018. We did it for a couple of years. Pandemic kind of closed our doors, and we came back a few years ago. And it's a space for those who wonder if they belong at Influence, and for others who want people to feel like they do. And Rob and I definitely approach this from different angles, but we care about the same question, which is how do you make a large national conference feel more welcoming, easier to navigate, and more connected, which is what we're going to explore in this conversation. Rob, thank you for sitting by my long-winded intro of you. Rob, you pulled me aside at a Thrive event, and you were like, Rob, all right, I got this idea. I want to run past you. I got this idea. You're like, I saw this speaker. Oh, they were struggling, and like no one was there. And it's like, so talk to me about how you decided to focus. I mean, you've done so many varying ways of volunteering. Well, this very particular thing that no one told you to do. It wasn't even a written down thing to do, but you saw the problem. Like, why put energy into creating and coordinating room monitors for breakout sessions?
Well, yeah, that conversation started at Thrive in New Mexico in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person who inserts themselves into people's situations all the time, because when I see a problem and nobody's fixing it, I want to help. And that's the NC in me, the DJ in me. I will look at a mixer and I'll think, okay, how can I help this person navigate this whole microphone situation? I started doing that in 2016 at my first Influence. I was at the Cavett Day, and they just left the mixer there with a microphone, and some of the presenters didn't know what they were doing, or can somebody turn that up? I just ran over there and started doing it. It was my first Influence. And so it's inherent in me. So we used to have people who did introductions for speakers before the pandemic. And so I believe that last conference was 2019 in Denver. So I observed that, and people could volunteer, or people would get their own presenters or their own introducers. And then post-pandemic, things kind of fell apart. We were rebuilding it as we go. And so a lot of those legacy things or things that we had before were kind of got lost in the mix of everything as we were rebuilding influence. And so there I am in Orlando, and I am in the breakout room, and the room was just crowded, right? And they didn't have a mic runner. People were asking questions. And then the room was so small, the projector was on the people who were standing. And so they said, can somebody cover up this projector? And I ran up and I covered the projector. I ran the mic. I ushered people to seats without anybody asking me. But I saw a need. And if you're ever in a room and you think, I wish somebody would do this for me right now, be that audience member. Be the change you want to see in the world today. So I wanted to be that audience member that I wish I had. I'm also that person for anybody who's presenting. I'll take a photo of them. I'll send it to them on LinkedIn. I'll say, great job. I take 3 or 4 photos for your socials. And it's just a way to be a team player. And so that's what I saw. And so there we are in New Mexico. And I think it was just an organic conversation. And then you go, Rob, this is what I do.
I know.
And I said, well, we should combine forces. And you said, let's do it. And so we put up an email. We sent it to NSA, and they accepted our proposal. And here's the cool thing. After 2 years of coordinating this, NSA has now taken it over. And I said, hey, do you need my help this year? And they said, no, we got this. I'm like, cool, I've done my job. And so that's really the whole point of it was I saw a need, and we helped create that together. And without your help, because you came up with a couple of ideas. Tell me about your original ideas.
Well, I remember logistically gathering the information on a Google form. I was like, we can't just have people be like, yeah, sure, Rob, whatever. I'll do it. I was like, no, we have to get all the details, and we have to know which session would they most want to be going to. Because I've volunteered at conferences for many years, and where either a discounted fee or something in exchange for some work I did, part of other associations where I was putting my top 3, and then I would be assigned. And it was obviously a lot of work behind the scenes, but it made me happy because I wanted to be in that room anyway. I could spend 5 minutes at the beginning and 5 minutes at the end doing whatever the tasks are, happy to help. So I definitely had thoughts about that, but I realized that it was more than just logistically running a mic or introducing a speaker. And I wondered when you also realized that it was about making the conference just a better experience. Obviously it made it better for the speakers who were on their own.
Yeah.
But it also had this ripple effect. It impacted other people.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is I go to conferences. I consider myself a professional event attendee because I go and I experience, and then I think about my thoughts. And I tell other speakers to think about your thoughts when you watch other speakers, and think about what you're thinking in the moments that you check out and you check back in. But I also do that from an event attendee perspective. And so if I was in that breakout room and I didn't hear somebody's question on the other side of the room, hey, we can't hear you, right? So I have that in mind. We have to have mic runners. We have to have it for the recordings. And your idea that I was actually trying to tee you up was
tell me.
having somebody in the back of the room. You said, we can't just have one person in the front. We have somebody in the back, somebody who's also letting people know, hey, there's a couple of seats left. Come in here. Sorry, it's full. And so we
greeting.
Had a two-person
we had
team.
a front of room. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. It was a front of room and back of room, and people who volunteered got to rotate, so they didn't get stuck always being one role. If they wanted, also if there were certain people they wanted to introduce, they were super excited to do that part. But coming into a crowded room when it's not yet started and not knowing if it's okay to cross over to get to the seat on the other side of the circle, and you need somebody to go like this or go over there, or hey, raise your hand if you got a seat near you. You just need someone to take a little bit of control about that, but also it's a greeting people and welcoming them into the space and letting them know the plan, or here's the handout that everyone else just got, or,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And I want to talk about the mic running from a different perspective, which is accessible NSA is here to, like, I want to channel that, which is every time
Yep.
I'm ever in a space where someone says, I don't need the mic, right? I always say, please use the mic. And I don't have any issues with my hearing yet. But I
I'm a
know,
speaker. I know how to speak. Like, we
I'm
get
like,
it.
yeah, congratulations. Do you want to ruin your vocal cords while proving to me that you don't care if others have trouble following? Like, it's just weird how people are myopic about it. But I'm that person who was like, it's not fully inclusive of an
No.
experience if people have no place to sit and they are a person who needs to sit. Like, some people are not going to stand for the time in the back corner. Some people are going to be fine with that. Some people aren't going to be fine with that. You know, like, some people want to sit closer. Some
Yeah.
people like need to hear the microphone being used. Like, all those little things, by having it in place as people came in, like, we solved a lot. We solved a lot of those problems by having a little bit of help. There's something else, Rob, you said, which is this was something that was happening before the pandemic, and so much changed on a national level about the organization of the conference between, like, before and after, like, this time period, that people with longer memories need to bring forward to the team what had been
Yes.
working. Because some things just didn't get captured and brought forward. And so I love that it is now an established part of the planning. I mean, it's brilliant that we have set something up that can be carried forward.
Yeah, and what's important is also giving people permission to interact and engage. This is something we encouraged all our room hosts to do is, hey, 5 minutes before, if there's people in there, you give them a prompt. Hey, meet the person next to you. Because sometimes people just need that permission to interact and engage with each other. That was one of your contributions, I believe, as well.
I love that you're telling me all the ways I was brilliant. I will accept all of them. I
Yes.
will say that having this is all my, like, pre-pandemic content, so my brain's like, oh right, I did write about that. Here's what a lot of
Yep.
people do their first and or second year, or if they're a little more introverted, they leave the first session they went to, they use maybe the bathroom, they get a cup of coffee, and they immediately go to the next session. There's like 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes, but within 5 minutes, they've already done all the things they can think of. They don't want to stand in the hallway and wander around trying to look for someone to talk to. So they go in early, and the room is just deathly quiet. So part of, I thought, the greeter room monitor's role in the back of the room was to literally just say hello, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, something that breaks that silence. Because if it is silent, you and I would walk in together knowing each other and immediately stop talking. We might sit next to each other because we know each other, but we would be like, okay, it's kind of okay. And it's hard to break that. But if there's someone being, like, really friendly and really welcoming, and you know who among you have those kinds of smiles that, like, greets people, keeps them going, I think that is what helps people connect. And then, yes, asking the speakers to put on their opening slide a prompt that people can use. Maybe it's related to their content, maybe it's not. I just love the way of just getting people to sort of talk to each other. Because one of the things about breakout rooms is that it's self-selecting. So you chose to be in a room with these people. I mean, you could talk to
Yeah.
random people in the Starbucks in the hotel lobby, or you could try to talk to these people who got there early. You'll probably have a better connection with these people who got there early. So, layers upon layers that came into all this. And
Yeah.
I also want to say, just as a speaker, it's too much to be the speaker doing it. Like like
Yeah.
a speaker may want to do that, even if you're the speaker or I'm the speaker. There's just so many things, like, to worry about. So we need to be
And
supporting our speakers as well.
well, and we're NSA. And we should be putting on one of the best speaking events in the world, and we have high expectations for ourselves and for what's going on. And so let's support each other in that way, because NSA, the staff, there's only can do so much. But if we can volunteer and elevate this experience for everybody else, that's what we can do. And so a couple more things before we move on to the next topic. I just wanted to quickly talk about my approach to this, because if I'm sitting in the audience and I feel something and I want to see something change, or if I want to help, I often give my feedback. I often volunteer. I keep saying, be the change you want to be. And so when I went to my first influence, I was just amazed at everything that was happening on stage. But at times I felt like I wasn't seen, or how do I get other people who don't feel seen. And so Melissa got to experience that when I got to MC in 2022. The first time we met is when she participated in one of my games. But one of the best compliments that I got was a year later in Orlando. Elena Levine comes up to me and she goes, "You don't know me, but I went to my first Influence in 2016. I didn't feel like this was my community. I didn't feel seen. And then I went to Nashville and you made me feel seen." And I just started to well up and I was like, what? But that was actually my goal. I wanted the people in the front of the room to the back of the room to feel like they were a part of the show. Because let's face it, we're all speakers. We all have egos. We're used to being on stage. And so if I can give everybody a little piece of that and just share that opportunity for us to showcase each other, that was my goal. And so, and also, if there's ways for you to volunteer and you get rejected, keep asking.
Yeah.
Keep asking. And that's, I mean, I've applied for multiple breakout sessions. Have I gotten one? No. But I find other ways to volunteer and showcase what I want to do. And that's the way to do it.
Yeah, if anyone wants to volunteer, basically hit reply to any national email, and that goes to the member services folks, and that's a good way in if you're not sure like what the right path is or who to ask or you don't know all the players. Just literally reply to any email from NSA and explain what you want to be doing, and it should get routed to the right person. And reach out to me, reach out to Rob, reach out to the people that you're seeing on these calls, and reach out to your chapter leadership if you're part of that. Chapter leadership is a great way to volunteer. I mean, what I'm really hearing is like the volunteering is actually a way to feel more fully invested in and part of the community. Like that is the active engagement that I've been looking for. Let me switch gears here a little bit. I want to actually segue this into why I organize the You Belong Ice Cream Social. This is a reception that's co-hosted by NSA Rainbow Speakers, which I mentioned is a community group for LGBTQ speakers and our allies. And it's also co-hosted with Accessible NSA, which is a community of people with different disabilities and abilities and their allies. Now, rather than being an identity-based space, what we're doing is we're gathering people based on shared values of wanting to make others feel welcomed and included, which is why I want to talk about it here with you, Rob. Now, it was started out as a small reception in 2018, has grown tremendously. Last year, about 1/3 of the 750 people at Influence attended. It was blowing me away. That tells me that there is a real hunger, pun intended, for spaces where people can walk in and feel welcomed and feel seen and feel included. The You Belong Ice Cream Social is free for everyone at the conference who chooses to attend, but it is not free to host. And I want to mention that there is a real hunger for it. And so the catering costs are significant. The cost is about $40 per person. Yes, for a bowl of ice cream. And this year we're working to raise nearly $10,000 to cover that through NSA member donations. So if you want information about being one of our sponsors of this year's You Belong Ice Cream Social, please write the word belong in the chat and I will find out how to reach you and I will send you the information. We do all kinds of things to recognize that support. I love it that people are showing their desire to create a space like this in lots of ways, both volunteering to help set up the space and clean up the space, volunteering by giving some money and helping offset the costs for us. It has become just a wonderful and, dare I say, sweet tradition. Rob, as we are closing this conversation, I would love to know what's one simple thing that everybody attending the conference can do at Influence to help someone else feel more welcome.
Gosh, you said one. I'm going to do three. One, there is an ambassador program that you can sign up for, or if this is your first time, sign up for an ambassador. I think that's really important. Also, if you're going to be ambassador, make sure that you can honor the time. I was a terrible ambassador a couple of years ago because I was stretched so thin doing so many different things, but it's a great way to go about it. Two, this is something really cool, and I'm going to tease this up for Meridith, and hopefully she can tell us more about it. But so there's something new this year. It's called In the Hallways. It's called The Hallway, and it's on the schedule this year. And I believe this is for more intentional networking. And so they're giving us more time in the hallways. And so just like Melissa said, if there's somebody that's on your radar, reach out to them in advance and say, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you at Influence. If anything, I would love a moment with you. Never use the term, I'd love to pick your brain, because that's a one-way street. I'd love to collaborate on some ideas I'm working on, or
Yeah.
I would love to learn more about what you're doing with your business, things of that nature. And I
That's
think
brilliant.
just finding your avatars as well. If there's somebody who's doing what you want to do, find your avatar. And for me, that my first influence was meeting Tom Singer, who introduced me to John Petz. And both those guys were in the MC space, which I wanted to do more of. And so figure out who those people are, and you'll be surprised how approachable these people are.
Yeah, really approachable. That's the best part. Rob, again, thank you for saying yes to this wild idea of being on a panel and having this conversation. I'm going to say adieu, and then I'm going to bring Meridith up because we are now going to shift over to our last fireside chat. We are hoping we're going to have some time at the end of this for some breakout rooms for those of you who want to stick around and have a bit of connecting time. Meridith, welcome. Meridith Elliott Powell, CSP, CPAE. And for anyone who's a bit newer to NSA, as we mentioned, CSP stands for Certified Speaking Professional. It's an earned designation that recognizes a speaker's professionalism, platform skill, and business success. I've heard about 17% of speakers globally have earned this designation. She also has CPAE after her name, which stands for Council of Peers Award for Excellence. This is known as NSA's Speaker Hall of Fame. It's one of the highest honors in the speaking profession. Meridith is the immediate past chair of NSA National Board. She's also a business growth strategist, keynote speaker, award-winning author, and leadership expert whose work helps organizations lead, sell, and grow in times of uncertainty. I have a personal reason to be grateful to you and your leadership, Meridith. At the 2024 You Belong reception, Meridith surprised me with a Chair's Award for Distinguished Service, which is sitting right there behind my ear. It was for my role in creating and organizing that event we were just talking about. It was a very deeply meaningful moment. I lost my words. Never happened to me. And I love that I got to be recognizing the importance of creating these spaces where more people are being feel seen and welcomed and included inside of NSA. Meridith, thank you again for that recognition, for being with us tonight. I want to actually start with that moment. You and I knew who you were. I didn't know you knew who I was. I had no idea that you knew me. I knew you. So I'm just curious, from your perspective as a national board chair that year, what made the You Belong reception and that kind of member-led contribution feel important to recognize?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, and thank you all for attending this tonight. I hope we get to see you at Influence, at other conferences, and this is just beginning. This is just the beginning of us helping you on your speaker journey. I would say that, one of the things that I remember sitting in that executive committee and working one-on-one with Jamie is to really be intentional about thinking who was really moving the needle in NSA? Where were the pockets outside of the traditional ways that we had engaged people, which was conferences and events and things like that, that were really bringing new people in or people from different backgrounds? And obviously, you and the work that you were doing was a natural was such a natural example of that. So not to mention the fact that, gosh, Robbie, when I look at how much that has grown, you can see what an impact you've made with that. So it was not only a natural, but I think it was a really good selection for the award.
Yeah, one of my favorite notes was actually hearing that someone went up to Jamie, and it was a person who didn't identify as part of the LGBTQ community, but said, I saw this on the agenda on the website and thought this is the kind of organization I want to be part of. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's cool. I love that.
Well, I tell you what I love about that reception is, to me, it defines what NSA is. One of my favorite things about the National Speakers Association. And I jumped in with 2 feet. Somebody told me to go. I had no resistance. I was like, I'll be there. I don't even know what this is. I never heard of a professional speaker. I walked through the doors. I was blown away by the talent, but I was also blown away by how diversified it was. Like, it was people doing all different types of things. It was people from all different walks of life. It was people from, it's the most diversified place I'd ever bring. I brought my husband with me, who's a dentist. And let me tell you, if you are used to going to dental conferences, NSA is a far different experience. And I think I know it's so much more than the ice cream social, but the ice cream social is really where it comes together. And I love the fact that at the ice cream social, you have somebody who's come out with different pronouns, who's identified next to somebody who is a born again Christian, who you never thought the two would be standing next to each other, talking sprinkles with one another. But to me, it is the very best of our
Yeah.
association, bringing people together and remembering what they have in common rather than what drives them apart. And
Yeah.
you did a phenomenal job with that.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of sharing like value-based spaces in that way.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your NSA board experience because you've served in the board for many years, and I feel like you're seeing things that the rest of us can't see just because from our vantage point.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways you're seeing what you understand NSA to be? As you just kind of touched on that, but what else sort of is something that's coming up for you?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think, I think the National Speakers Association is going through a transformation, just like many of us are going through a transformation in our careers. The thing about the National Speakers Association is speaking is a career that it's a little bit like real estate. Everybody and their brother is a speaker when the economy is good. And then when the economy takes any kind of a hit, people get out of it as fast as they can get out of it because it is a hard way to make a living. It's one of the most rewarding ways you'll ever make a living, but I think it's one of the hardest. And when I first joined NSA, it was pretty much keynoters, and keynoters were the top of the bill. We're really looking at transforming that to include people who just truly make a living with the spoken word, and really looking for to go beyond the event and add value to our members in so many in so many different ways so that we become an organization that you can't really, live without. I think at the same time, the last thing I'm going to say that I think is incredibly important is that I see us lobbying more for the speaking profession.
Mm,
Everybody's talking about AI and technology and how we're all just going to be, communicating through robots going forward. But I think I think the other side of that is going to happen, and the human connection is going to become more and more important. And when I think about this profession, we give people one of the most important things they can have, and that is hope. And so I think you'll see us advocating a lot more with the elevation of the CSP. We've really looked to promote that and give that value. You'll see the same thing come along with the CPAE and maybe put some muscle back into our profession.
I mean, this is the piece where these designations carry such weight in the spaces of people who know them.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear your thoughts about this with meeting planners, because I think that's who we're trying to impress.
Yes.
And the meeting planners are in on it. Like they understand what this means. And I think it's these two things together, but always educating and showing like why this designation is meaningful.
Yeah. So I don't know if any of you have run into this, but I'd be so curious if any people listening. But this year, more than ever, I have had people go far beyond my sizzle reel to make sure that I can get on their stage. And one of the reasons is with AI and with all the advancements with technology, meeting planners are getting burned. For a lack of a better way to put it, I've had more people tell me they've hired somebody and they get them in there and they're just not who they claim to be when they get up on that stage. So designations like certified speaking professional in the Speaker Hall of Fame guarantee that when that person gets on stage, especially with the CSB, not so much with the CPAE, I think the CSB, it's the designation I am most proud of in the organization that I have ever gotten. But it proves you've done the work. It proves you stood on the stages. It proves that no matter what happens in the audience, you can deliver. And I think to a meeting planner or anybody planning a meeting, it's that guarantee that they're not going to have to worry about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need that because it's sort of like everyone became an AI expert or
Yeah.
everyone's a leadership expert or whatever it is, like finding ways to showcase like truly who we are. As we close this, I just would love to hear for anyone who's just now like becoming aware from this conversation, maybe about the power of NSA and what's possible, but they're trying to figure out where to start. I mean, some people commenting in chat, like, where do I do now? So
Yeah,
what
right.
would you say? Like, what is the next step for someone to
Yeah,
get
so
involved?
I just loved the common thread that I heard from everybody that you had on here. And if I had to say the one key, the thing that I have learned tonight, it's just raise your hand and volunteer and talk to a stranger. The beautiful thing about NSA, if you don't know NSA very well, but it was founded by Cabot Robert. And Cabot Roberts' thought was that when you get together and, the pie gets bigger, that if I help Robbie and Robbie lands 3 gigs, then my potential of landing a gig gets bigger. And there's for no pun intended, but there's a baked in mindset at NSA with that. Like if Robbie calls me, I have to respond because that's just what we do at
You did.
NSA.
You did
And
today.
so I would say to people, I wouldn't worry, please don't worry about doing the right thing. Just do something. Like right now, before you get off, you just gave Robbie something so precious, and that is your time. So
Mhm.
please get return on investment. I don't care if you connect with Robbie on LinkedIn. That's the one thing that you did. I don't care if you sign up for one of NSA's virtual events. Come to Influence, stand in the hallway, meet somebody. I will guarantee you that for every single person who's been on this panel, it was because they talked to somebody they didn't know at NSA, and one thing led to another. We all have the same story, it's just a different person. So I would say, please don't waste your time tonight. Please don't just have listened to me talk or Robbie talk or Rob or any of the panel talk. Do one thing, and that one thing will lead to another, will lead to another.
This is amazing. I thank you for being here. I understand you got in on a red eye. You've got
I
a
did.
meeting tomorrow morning.
I'm going to play tennis at 5:30 a.m. So it's
Uh,
the only reason I'm bagging out. And then I got to catch a plane. So yeah,
uh,
I'm going to go to bed.
the life of a speaker. So I'm gonna let you go and do that because I we gotta have that like work life integration. Meredith, thank you for taking my request seriously and saying yes right
Anytime.
away. I so appreciate you. All right, friends, now it's your turn to get a chance to connect with some people in the room. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to someone I don't know and I want to get to know, which is Raja, who has been putting notes in the chat for all of you. This is the kind of thing I usually do when I'm at someone else's event. And so this is a great way to stand out. This is a micro volunteer opportunity where, you hear some nugget or you hear someone talking about something, you go find the link for it, you find the source, you find the book title, right? You capture the notes. Thank you so much for doing that. And if you have to go before the breakout rooms, this would be a good time to do so. But please save the chat before you leave so that you don't lose all that great content. And so you can click on the 3 dots on the top right of the chat window and you will see the save chat option. If you are still here, I'm going to assume that you plan to stay and be part of these conversations. I'm going to get people into rooms of 3 or 4 for about 8 minutes, and there'll be a countdown clock, and I'm going to give you a prompt. I'll give people a chance to decide if they're sticking around for this. I hope you do. I think it's a really cool way to get to know people, and then we'll round this out. Also, I want to share, since people are bowing out, I'm going to share some resources in the chat here. I have LinkedIn links for all of our speakers, and I have the links to all the chapters and to national in case you want to dig in a little deeper into that. The prompt for our breakout room is that I would love you to share a piece of advice that you either give or you've received that has helped you grow as a speaker or helped you build your speaking business. And I'm going to share a little bit of advice that I've gotten just to kind of get your own juices flowing. Back in 2015, I joined NSA, and one of the things I heard over and over and over again was write a book. Write a book, 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 write a book. It was over. I learned on my own how important it is that the topic of any book written to grow a business needs to be strategically aligned and validated by the very clients and prospects you're hoping for the book to reach. I didn't have that necessarily figured out initially. Some say writing a book is like a marathon, but it's actually more like a triathlon. See, a marathon runner gets to stop at the finish line, But when you're writing a book, writing is just the first phase. Marketing and launching is the last thing you do. In between is publishing. So it's the writing of the book. It's like your swim, then dripping wet, you run over to the bike and you're going to go figure out how to get that book published. And then you still need a plan for the launching and the marketing in that third and final phase. So I've heard people also say that your book should be a business card. And I want to also push back on that gently by saying, think about it more like a business asset, not as easy to throw away and dismiss, but something that is actually going to turn your book into a business development tool, opening doors to conversations with the people that you want to be talking to as a business owner. So my best advice to give you is to, yes, write a book, but don't just write any book. Write the right book and have a launch plan in place before publishing. I'm a little biased on that because I'm a book launch strategist, but I do want to encourage you to do it. Friends, what I like to do at the end of these events is I'm gonna take myself off the spotlight. We're gonna say goodbye to anyone who's been watching the replay. I'm really glad you stuck around and to watch to the end.